Counselor Davis. Here. Counselor Steph.
Yes.
Counselor Russo.
Here.
Do we have a quorum?
Please join me in standing for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, is there any agenda changes or conflicts?
Yes. I'm requesting that we pull two items off the agenda. One is C, the refund of special tax over collection, and the other one is E, a memorandum of understanding with school district RE1 for contributions to mental health and substance program, and vote on them separately.
Okay. Are there any other agenda changes or conflicts of interest? I would like to pull items D, license to encroach, and J, the North Fork School District 27th Street Trail Easement Agreement as well. So those will be items. Can we do that after we swear in our new deputy fire chief? All right. Anything else?
Are there any participants online? I can't see them.
Oh, yes, thank you for that reminder that you just reminded me like 30 seconds ago. If anybody's online who is interested in the annexation PUD conversation, that will be continued until our August 19th meeting. So if you're online or in the room because you're interested in that, we will not be discussing that at all tonight other than to take motion to continue. All right, with that, citizens appearing before council. These are for items not on the agenda. Limited to 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, why am I not seeing anyone on the certificate? Are you seeing?
I don't know, I don't even have a computer screen.
Because nobody's.
Are you seeing anybody?
Alyssa controls that.
Oh,
Yes, where you're at, you won't see the participants unless you're logged into it also on your tablet, because what you're seeing is what's on.
I'm not
So
seeing it.
you'll see the panelists, but not the attendees.
Well, I'm just curious, Mr. Mayor, if there are people online who want to talk, you can't see.
Yep. But
I can do
Alyssa
them.
can.
And are you?
I don't have anything, but like.
Well, were you gonna join it to your, Surface like you did at the meeting before? But I can also keep track of that if you'd like. So
Why
that
don't
you
you just do that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So I'm just asking, Mr. Mayor, when you're asking for public comment, is there anyone online?
Yeah, there are a couple.
There are
So,
two.
Oh, great. Do they have a hands up?
Their hands up, there is one that's just numbers and letters, and then one that's Craig on the show. In that order.
Okay, I'm sorry. So who's the first person?
we don't know, letters and numbers.
Oh.
That,
Okay.
Yeah, B23 BHL, are they on the phone?
I will allow.
Okay, yeah, if you want to just pick them up.
Hello,
Yes.
can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, who are you speaking with?
This is Tori Harbottle, and then I have Maddie Korber, and I have Zoe Reese with me as well.
Okay, are you a citizen of Glenwood Sprin? And you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, so we work for the state of Colorado. We're employees for judicial, and we just wanted to propose a daycare for state, county, and city employees. Because we do have multiple women pregnant and have babies, and with the average cost of daycare, we think it'd be a great opportunity for employees to have a facility to use with lower costs and something to keep employment and local.
Thank you.
Great. Yep. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Let's see who's next.
Craig on issue?
Hi, Craig. Are you on? Your unmute button's on the bottom left.
Okay, I got it.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for your leadership and management. It's awesome. We have probably the best of any small town anywhere, so appreciate it. It's never good enough, obviously. But we need to change the messaging for our town immediately. This is the second year back to back that our town has suffered major financial implications. And obviously you can't do anything about I-70 coming from Denver, but you can do something about I-70 and Independence Pass. And you need to focus on that immediately. I want to give you how absurd the situation is. I had a customer come, soldiered on all the way over Independence Pass, made it all the way to downtown Glenwood Springs. Can you imagine? One of the best towns. Made it there, and then all they had to do was go another 3 miles to get to my business. And when they looked on their messaging app, it told them they had to go back to Carbondale. So they said, well, geez, we would have just had breakfast in Carbondale had we known that. Not only that, they had to go over to Paonia. Not only that, they had to go over to Delta. Then they had to go to Grand Junction. So you're pretty good to go. Once you get to Grand Junction, you're pretty gold to get to Glenwood, right? You would think. Once you got to Grand Junction, you got to Rifle. So you would think, oh, geez, I'm just 25 miles from Glenwood. I'm almost there. No, you got kicked up to Meeker. Then you got kicked from Meeker to the town of Buford. Then you got kicked from Buford over the Buford Pass to Newcastle. And then I'll be damned, you're good to go. Glenwood's just about 15 miles away. So I'm trying to educate you on how absurd the routes to get to Glenwood are. And I know this is beyond your control, but we need to message that Glenwood is not flooded, that every business and every hot springs is not under 10 feet of water or mud or rocks. I'm not under any mud or water or rocks. And you can get to me from Utah, you can get to me from California, but yeah, you can't get to me from Denver. I understand that. So if you guys could put this very seriously, you know, the businesses need to salvage what is remaining of the last 3 months of the season, you know, because we already lost 3 months of last season. So focus on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. And I think our city manager, Deborah, can respond to that a bit.
Craig, I promise you, we have been working on this since Monday. We're trying to work with CDOT to get this messaging changed. If you would do me a favor, call, our chamber CEO, correct, Angie? I'd give her a call tomorrow to explain the difficulties. She's also tracking them with CDOT. And we're gonna make this right.
Some of that's apps too, and we don't have.
Greg, some of that's the apps. Deborah.
Somebody join on this device that's not audio.
No, I think it's this.
Okay,
Oh, God, back up on stage again.
Yeah, cut it, now try it. Nope.
Yes. Okay. Yes. We got in touch fighting with the mapping apps is a constant thing. I know today at some point I looked and it was correct, but I think it's going to be a continuous. We reached out to Google Maps and I think all the mapping things. CDOT's been reaching out to all of them as well. It's just in our modern age, we've all become dependent on them and we are paying the price of it. So, but we are working on that as well.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate those comments. Do we have anybody else for public comment? All right. With that, council comments. Charlie.
Just briefly, but I'll follow up with what Craig was asking about. We had a meeting today where we're trying to address also the messaging, and we're getting messaging in from trying to direct that maybe more toward Salt Lake and Grand Junction, those places, try to make sure they're aware we're opening. The messaging also is it's a long drive, but it's worth it to come to Glenwood from even the Denver area. So we're doing, when I say we, the tourism board and the tourism group is trying to do everything we can to get messaging out. We're open for business. The hotels are open for business. Restaurants, pools, everybody are open for business. So we're doing everything we can to get that message out to the public. The greater public, not the Glenwood Springs public. Tony, here.
Oh, can I go?
Yep.
So, just to follow up with that young lady and her colleagues from State Judicial said, I talked just briefly with Shelley and separately with Paula about this, but, you know, whether you have children or not, housing children and having daycare, Mr. Mayor, as you know from your experiences in Aspen and your own personal experiences, is very important. So if this is maybe something, I don't know if it needs to be an agenda item, but we have to address it with all these young moms who, you know, have to work, choose to work and work here and work and live in Glenwood Springs, and the husband works and they just don't have any other options because there are no daycare options. I think you have to sign up like 5 years ahead and, you know, it's hard. There's long waiting lists. So it's just not a viable thing and we have to do something about this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Paula Stepp. Just one of the things that I've been thinking about because I was at the meeting earlier this week is the problems that our employees have who live on the other side of the canyon and who either live on the other side of the canyon and work here or live here and work on the other side of the canyon. And I would just like to look at a council discussion of how we can help businesses or the employees on some temporary accommodations if we should need that. And I talked to Deborah about this a bit, and she said Eagle County is also kind of looking at this, so I would like to do it in conjunction with them. But I do think we want to facilitate opportunities for people to have a place to spend the night if they need it. We've got schools starting pretty soon, so we have teachers living on the other side of the canyon. We know we have hospital staff that's back and forth, and I think it's worth a discussion. And added to that note, I was thinking about it today, and when and if canyon reconstruction starts, we will have a workforce there, so we'll need to figure out a way to accommodate those people so that they have places to stay. So we have a hotel industry that's hurting a bit. We have employees that can't get back and forth to home except through the long way. And I just think it's worth a discussion amongst all of us on something we might be able to do to help with that. And I am at a level of opening it to everybody that has some different ideas on if there's some things we could do, in particular working with the other side of the canyon. So.
And I just wanted to clarify, Eagle County is not looking at putting people up in hotel rooms.
Okay.
There are about 2,000 people that go from either this side of the canyon to Eagle or Eagle to this side.
Okay.
It was information Eagle gave me yesterday.
2,000 workers?
Yes.
And then the other thing, on a lighter note, just a reminder again, because I do this every council meeting lately, is the Riverfest is this Saturday. We are looking for people to sign up and clean our riverside banks, and there's a great big party at Two Rivers afterwards with food and music and drink and raffle prizes. So if you haven't signed up, sign up and join us Saturday cleaning up our riverbanks here in Glenwood Springs. Thank you.
Ingrid?
Thank you for the opportunity.
No, okay. Anybody else? I just want to say, thank you, everybody, for the comments on the special session on July 29th. I was not able to be here. I apologize. I had a family vacation. I just absolutely could not reschedule. I really appreciate everybody up here taking those comments in my stead. I watched the show, the comments, the YouTube video, and I do really appreciate all those comments, and I want to apologize to the community for not being here, because it really is an important issue. So I will be here August 19th for the next one, though. With that, of course, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda absent items C, E, B, and J.
I would move to approve the consent agenda. The minutes will be changed. There was a motion I made on the compensation. It referenced 2022 budget, should be the 2021 budget. Brian said he'd make that. So just so you're aware, when you approve the minutes, it'll have that change in it. Otherwise, I would approve the consent agenda.
I think C, G, and J. I don't think E is the,
C?
is it E? That's police department fees?
No, it's not C.
Memorandum of understanding with school district for contribution.
Sorry, hold on.
That's G.
It's
Paula's was C,
C and E.
C and E. Mine was D and J.
It's E.
C, D, and D, and J.
C, D, E, J.
E?
C, D, E, J.
Right, so I said.
You like Edward.
That's C, E, D, and J. Yeah.
Those are not included in my motion.
Okay. Who's on first?
Second to that, I will second.
All right, been moved by Charlie, seconded by Ingrid. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, let's consider, let's see, without Paula's,
No, we're gonna do the fire chief thing first, Mr. Mann.
Oh.
yeah. Okay. Gary?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's my pleasure to introduce our new Deputy Chief for the Fire Department, Mr. Doug Gerald. Was accepted and was offered and has accepted the position. He'll start here in another week or so. Doug's been with us with Glenwood Fire for 13 years, has a nearly 30-year history in the fire service. So he'll be able to hit the ground running very, very quickly as the new Deputy Chief. So with that, I would ask the Mayor to swear him in.
Right. Doug, come on up. Okay, so today we're here for the swearing-in ceremony of our fire department's new deputy chief. Firefighting is one of the world's most honored but dangerous occupations. When there is an emergency in the community, firefighters are the first on the scene. Firefighters respond to devastating ravages of fire, both structural and wildland, motor vehicle accidents, hazardous material incidences, medical emergencies, and many other critical incidents. Firefighters serve our communities following standard policies, procedures of the fire service, and standard operating procedures of their departments. They are there to prevent human suffering and death, to stabilize the incident, and prevent damages and loss of property. It is a great honor to have this opportunity to swear in Douglas Gerald to the position of Deputy Chief of the Glenwood Springs Fire Department. Let's see. Okay, how would he do this? Okay, I think you need to, well, I think I say it and then you repeat it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I usually do this.
Raise my hand.
Okay. I, Douglas Gerard.
I, Douglas Gerald.
Gerald, sorry, man. But it sounds, looks French on my screen. As the Deputy Fire Chief of Glenwood Springs Fire Department.
As the Deputy Fire Chief of Glenwood Springs Fire Department.
Swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Colorado.
Swear I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Colorado.
And I will faithfully and honestly and impartially discharge the duties of Deputy Fire Chief.
And that will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge the duties
of the Deputy Fire Chief
of Glenwood Springs Fire
of
Department.
Glenwood Springs Fire Department.
And I pledge to carry out the duties of the Deputy Fire Chief to the best of my abilities.
And I pledge to carry out the duties of the Deputy Fire Chief to the best of my abilities.
And I will honor and respect the mission, goals, purposes, and policies
And I will honor and respect the mission, goals, purposes, and policies
of the Glenwood Springs Fire
of the
Department.
Glenwood Springs Fire Department.
I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of faith, public faith and trust.
I recognize the symbol of the badge of office as a symbol of faith and trust.
And I accept so long as I am true to the ethics of fire service.
And I accept so long as I am true to the ethics of the fire service.
And make these promises so solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
And make these promises so solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations,
Yep.
Doug.
I can only remember 3 Well, Doug's a lot sharper than you. What, no one wants to stay around for items C, E, D, and J? That's so weird.
Are we gonna do the follow-ons first?
Yeah, Paula, do you wanna?
Here's my,
Yeah, sure.
my that I downloaded was messing me up.
I'm sorry, okay, help. Will that shorten the meeting?
That's why I had the letters wrong.
Okay. Oh, right, okay. All right, item C is a refund of tobacco tax over collection. Golly, guys,
We had tacos for dinner.
I'm out of practice here. Do we want to have a conversation on this, or do we want to just,
I think you could take them together if you wanted to, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Or C and E.
C and E?
C and E.
Yes, is there a motion to approve item C and E?
I so moved.
Second.
Moved by Shelley, seconded by Charlie. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I'll grab Paula.
Okay. I think you all got health, right?
No, because I don't have a conflict. I just wanted to discuss it further.
Oh, okay.
It's a long discussion.
Nope, very short. Yeah. I just wanted to bring up items B, which is a license to encroach 51, 57, 9, 6, and 24 highway, and item J, which is Roaring Fork School District 27th Street Trail Easement Agreement. Carl, can you just briefly, within 30 seconds, talk about the simplicity and what these entail shortly?
So what you're really asking is how would this change after November if we haven't?
This is what I'm asking. So what I'm asking for the general public.
Make sure I was clear. So this is a license to encroach and an easement agreement. Both of these, the license to encroach probably wouldn't be affected that much because that's an encroachment into city-owned right-of-way. So that potentially would be kind of business as usual, even underneath the and/or language in the proposed ballot amendment. The grant of easement is much more problematic when you think about it from the Roaring Fork School District side of things. They have granted us this easement for us to be able to connect through to that important safety feature on 27th Street. The likelihood of that happening or happening without an exchange of a fair amount of money is much lower because for them to, if we were to say wanted to give that easement back, we would have to go to a vote of the people then. Over that little sliver of land. And so from their standpoint as another government entity, that's kind of a huge hurdle to go over when you're trying to make the decision on do I want to enter into this easement agreement or not, if the only way out of it is a public vote. And so that's, like when I talked to the paper, I said it's going to make business a little harder to do as a city as a result of those. And obviously in the case of the school district, we can't condemn out their property, they're another government entity. So we simply would not have had that option of putting that trail through potentially. And I certainly don't want that to be construed as the school district wouldn't work with this. It would have had to have been something that they would have had to seriously take into consideration, what impact that would have on their future plans if they had to go to an election to be able to move that sidewalk out. So.
Thank you. And my intent was not to actually have a conversation about the validity of whether those items were valid or not. It was only to highlight the possible pragmatic problems if this initiative does pass. So with that, I'll take a motion to approve items D and J.
Can I just clarify that the initiative you're talking about is the petition that was put out for the airport initiative?
It was.
It has to do with that.
Or whether if
it
the
was
city
passed.
or if the city owns or and/or it has an interest in property, I believe is the language. The issue is that it becomes from property that the city owns to property that it has any kind of an interest in, at least hold interest in, things like that. And I think this is a good example, not advocating one way or the other. I just want people to understand this is a great example of how it might impact our business in the future as a city, to sort of change how we interact with property owners. And again, going back to the article in the paper when I talked to the reporter about it, just changes how we have to do business. So people need to understand that. They're, again, not advocating one way or the other, just pointing it out.
Just so we can clear, the public's clear, if it didn't have that or in it, it would have to be put to government purpose. So we wouldn't have this.
It would have to be owned and put to government purpose.
Correct.
Not owned and or put to government purpose. So that government purpose is clearly a sidewalk is a government purpose, so it would fall within the purview of the change.
Right. Okay, thanks.
And is it also true that we would potentially have to go to a vote to sell a cemetery plot as well?
You know, that's something I haven't looked at closely. I don't know that it would. Clearly own it now. If the cemetery is still a public purpose, then if that was the intent of the charter, it would have always had to have been a sale. It wouldn't necessarily change it. So that's kind of my interpretation is the cemetery would probably remain operational the way it is today.
But if someone had an easement on their property or kind of a street vacation, which we've done, anything like that?
Right, that would be, and there again, without having a lengthy discussion, when I discussed it in the paper with the reporter, we have a lot of easements for sewer lines, water lines, electric lines, a wide variety of government projects, and sometimes those move, and people would like to have their title cleaned up and those easements abandoned. Right. They've clearly been put to a governmental use, but we don't own the fee interest currently, and so under the way the charter is today, you can vacate those. With the change in the charter, it would be likely that you would have to go to a vote every time somebody wanted to clean up title on their property that had an old abandoned easement on it. Or potentially to a quiet title action. So it just changes how we do business with the public, and it's going to make it more cumbersome, certainly, and more costly, because obviously we wouldn't want every taxpayer to pay for that special election, and that would be $500 to $7,500 to $10,000 every time we did that.
Okay, great, thanks, Carl.
So I believe we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving items D and J, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Did we get a second on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion carries unanimously. Fine. We did have a second on that, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the ESG Homeless Assistance Fund.
Wasn't there another item that you would pull through, was it just that?
It was those two.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Sorry.
No, not at all. ESG Homeless Assistance Funding and Contract. Hi, Debbie.
Oh, I think Carolyn Hart is online. I'm just here to kind of back that up or tell you more. She's not available. Do you see her up there?
Carolyn Harden, was there someone else?
Carolyn Hart. Maybe Christina Gear? Christina Gear?
No. At least not by me.
Oh, I see Carolyn. Okay, well, we're looking for Carolyn, just as an aside.
There we go. I just was trying to figure out how to get in there.
It was a great swearing in of the assistant chief. I've worked with Doug Gerald now on the recovery continuum task force and all these various things. Super guy. So that was awesome. I'm so glad I was here. That was great.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can, Carolyn.
Great, okay. Hi, my name's Carolyn Harden, and I'm here for Christina Guerra, Executive Director of West Mountain Regional Health Alliance. Just with a short presentation about the Emergency Solutions Grants, or ESG CARES Act, and we're in the second version of it. The money, or the grant award, will go to the city of Glenwood Springs. West Mountain Regional Health Alliance will kind of do the heavy lifting on that. So, do you have the presentation in front of you?
We don't.
Well, I believe it's in the agenda. If you just click on that.
That's in the packet.
Yeah.
If you have it, you should be able to share your screen. And then you'll be able to.
Okay. Let me see how I do that. Oh, share screen. Thank you. I am usually not the presenter. Oh, except I have the wrong screen. Hang on. Okay. Are you seeing the presentation now?
Yeah, we got it now, Carol.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So the grant period was started June 1st, goes through August 31st, 2022, although I did just get an email today that it could be extended. Oh, I have a typo in my own redoing of the presentation because of typos. Okay, so the Alliance is a group of healthcare providers, community agencies, hospitals who are working together, and many others who are working together to build an integrated healthcare system to achieve optimal health for all people who live in the West Mountain region. Christine is the executive director, and I'm just helping her out on this project as a consultant. Mountain Family Health Centers, as West Mountain Regional Alliance's fiscal agent, it will also be the ones who are invoicing City of Glenwood Springs for grant expenditures, and that's Steve Leeser, who's Director of Finance, and Annette Fronta, who's the CFO. So there's 4 components to the grant. This grant is directed at persons who are not sheltered, and West Mountain Regional Health Alliance will subcontract with a mental health provider who would provide actual street outreach, speaking with people on the street, and then providing case management. Temporary TES stands for Temporary Emergency Shelter, and again, that would be a subcontract, likely with Catholic Charities, to provide that. HMIS is the state Colorado Division of Housing database, and so there's a lot of tracking of what's provided, and then West Mountain will have some administrative expenses in the city. I've kind of already said this, but basically it'll be pandemic safe street outreach and then case management, where they will look at the person's housing and service needs and arrange housing and individualized services to meet the needs of unhoused persons in the city of Glenwood Springs. And then I talked about Catholic Charities as the likely provider for the temporary emergency shelter. And sorry, I was ahead of myself on this. And the Alliance will ensure that all the sub-grantees are complying with the required data entry, monitoring, and review. And I believe before you is a contract between the city of Glenwood Springs and the Alliance for the administration of this grant. I'll let Deborah talk about that. Any questions on this? I know I went fast, but I know I should have gone fast.
No, you're fine. Does anybody have any questions? Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay, great.
I was just going to add, these are funds we have not received before. It's because of COVID, we were able to access them. So, you know, I think this will be brand new for us. We are just the fiscal sponsor in this because we obviously don't have staff to do any of this. But I'm hoping, you know, it helps. This is another tool that we can use to hopefully get a more robust social service safety net.
Oh. Talking stick.
Sorry. I'm just trying to get clarity on fiscal sponsor. It just means the money runs through you, but nobody's doing anything. Somebody from Western Mountain Health does all the work.
We're doing as little as humanly possible. Good to know. Yes.
Well, you know, I would say, I think you saw the layers, and it is an example of the infrastructure that we do not have and have not had on this issue, right? We rely to homelessness, unhoused, housing, all these kinds of issues. So it's going through many layers, trying to find subcontracting, and I think that's really the example of it. So yay for you as a city to act as a fiscal sponsor. We really needed that.
One of the important ones there is that first one, the street outreach. So everything that we've had so far has been bits and pieces, right? Catholic Charities has some vouchers for rapid rehousing, and Lift Up has some food. Salvation Army tries to respond with gas tickets and giving people into, a hotel for a couple nights. So it's all reactive. Street outreach is the idea of being proactive. I mean, really going out and really understanding and finding the people and figuring out what's going on and beginning to build what we're calling this by name list. So when you say, how many homeless do we have in Glenwood Springs? And we know that homeless is just one term, right? And it represents many, many different varieties of things. That's what we're trying to really identify. What's that number, person by person, and what are their needs, and what's that path forward? So we've got a lot of pockets of resources, but you need that navigator, that person who really can make that relationship and start that person into those spaces. So that is really the biggest thing I think that we're really interested in this. The emergency services means that's right now we would be using hotels. We have no shelters, right? So it would be the kind of thing, okay, we need 2 nights, we need whatever. Right now we're using a little bit of monies from the Rocky Mountain Health Foundation. But it begins to get us, we have to begin to create ways to stabilize some of these folks in a way that we can get a hold of them long enough and get them stabilized to begin to move into positive ways that we feel like as a community, right, we want to see happen. So this gives us some dollars to work with that, and I'm sure we will do the extension because by the time we get things up and going, we are contracting with Mind Springs Health for that street outreach and connecting that collectively together, hopefully with our mobile crisis team or mobile team recovery, which is substance use, so it overlaps so much. Already have the people identified and ready to go, so we just got to get that money working. So this is hopefully some real on-the-ground action. It gives us some dollars to do that with. I'll sort that out just a little, or any other questions?
Thanks, Debbie.
You're welcome.
I would move to approve the subrecipient agreement with Mountain Valley Family Health Center.
I'll second the motion.
Moved by Charlie, seconded by Shelley. Ryan, let's call the question.
And just as a correction, it's not Mountain Valley, but West Mountain Health Alliance, Regional Health Alliance, right?
What you said.
What I said.
Counselor Hershey. Yes. Counselor Powell.
Yes.
Counselor Russo.
Yes.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Counselor Step.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Roman.
Yes.
Mayor Gode.
Yes.
Passes 6-1.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 11, this is ordinance 2021 budget stuff.
That would be neat. Okay, this is a budget amendment, appropriation to, it mainly covers the compensation study that you guys approved at your last meeting.
I would move we approve ordinance 2021-10.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Further conversation? Brian, let's call the question.
All right, Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Davis.
Yes.
Councilor Hershey.
Yes.
Councilor Crowe. Councilor Russo.
Yes.
Councilor Stepp.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Great. Item number 12, this is a continuation of annexation. This is to be continued to August 19th, 2021. Again, no discussion. This item will be taking place at this meeting.
Yeah, and I just, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to add on this, just so the public knows it. On kind of Monday morning, when I got up and realized that staff was going to be deeply engaged in what was going on in the canyon, and the public was going to be deeply engaged in what was going on in the canyon, it really felt like pushing this item off made sense to allow you to get the best input from both of those groups you possibly could. So it was me that reached out to the developer and said, hey, I think it would be in the best interest of everybody to push this item off for 2 weeks so that we can get a handle on what's going on here in town. And I just wanted to make sure the public knew that it really was on my instigation on Monday that this came up for a continuation. There again, just because we really want to hear from the public, don't want them to feel rushed. We also want to make sure you guys get all of your questions answered from staff when they're not working tirelessly on the issues that we have going on right at the moment. So that was the reason behind it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the clarification from the city attorney. I had some concerns about continuing this after last week, but I would make a motion to continue, Mr. Mayor, the annexation. Do you need the number?
No, if you just item 12,
Item
12 A, B, and C, that would be great.
A, B, and C to August the 19th at 6:15.
I'll second the motion.
So moved by been moved by Tony, seconded by Shelley. Ryan, let's call the question.
All right, Councilor Davis. Yes. Mayor Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Warren.
Yes.
Councilor Stepp.
Yes.
Councilor Crowe.
Yes.
Councilor Russo.
Yes.
Councilor Hershey.
Yes.
Unanimous, 7-0.
All right. Report from city administration.
So early in the evening.
We're
Not about it yet.
We're giving those jerks and Dylan a run for their money.
Silverthorne.
I don't know,
Girls
Take
always
that-
bragging about how quickly they.
you can take it up with the mayor of Silverthorne if you see her at a CAST meeting or a CML meeting.
Always held over my head about what short meetings they have. So anyway, go ahead, Deborah.
I guess, yes, I would just like to take a moment to thank all of our staff, water, wastewater, just all of our staff. This has been an extremely difficult week. Last week was difficult too, but I think everybody's keeping their heads high and continuing to push forward. Thank you guys for all of your support. It is incredible, and we're going to get through this.
Thank you, Deborah, too, for doing all those things you've done this last week.
Yes, and thank you to staff. So they're doing an incredible job.
And to your information person, getting, that is the most crucial thing, is getting the facts out. Sorry.
Taking it to the back row.
They're so far away.
I think it's your turn.
Oh, yes. So, not that she will ever see this, but I wanted to give a shout out to my daughter who turned 21 today. But the reason I'm doing that shout out is that she was a baby when I started working with the city, and she spent probably the first 4 years of her life when I was in-house upstairs in the afternoons after daycare with me. So it's a way of marking time, how long I've been here, as well as her turning 21. So that's all.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
So is she in Vegas too?
No, she's in probably downtown Chicago.
You think?
I don't know.
All right, I have one thing under correspondence, incoming and outgoing. There was a request made by the governor that we write a letter of support for the emergency declaration for the Glenwood Canyon. And we don't have a letter drafted, but I guess I just asked support from the rest of council for us being able to draft a letter, me being able to sign it in support of that emergency declaration.
Does that letter, Mr. Mayor, go to the
to the president, or to the federal government, or to the governor?
I think it's directed towards the governor, supporting their, and calling on them to.
Because he needs the support above him.
Right, exactly.
So is everybody in favor of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. That would be great.
All right. Thank you for that. We will now go into executive session. I don't have,
Just read the, off the agenda of the motion.
okay. This is executive session pursuant to 24-6-402-4F and L CRS to discuss personnel matters not specific to any individual employee who has requested the matter be in open session, more specifically concerning the city manager's annual review.
And I would add to the end of that motion, Mr. Mayor, that no further business is going to be conducted and that the regular meeting adjourn at the end of the executive session. That way we can turn off the Zoom. So moved.
Second.
Okay, Carla, because I don't think you pressed your mic when you said that.
Oh, sorry. Just that the motion to go in executive session, that there's going to be no further business at the end of the executive session, and so that the regular session would be ended at that time, just for our viewers out there, so they're not hanging out waiting for us to come back because we won't.
And so that's your first and second?
That was my motion, Tony second.
All right.
It's a long wait if they hang out on Zoom.
All right, moved by Charlie, seconded by Tony. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Should I stop the recording?